Firstly, good evening and welcome to you all to this, our first webinar of 2024. Firstly, thank you so much for joining us this evening on what is probably a rather chilly evening wherever you are. It certainly is down here in South Devon. For those that aren't familiar with Teams or so familiar, the chat bar is open, which I know some of you have already found. You should be able to access that from a computer or from phone if you are on your phone. I have set the cameras and mics for those attending to disabled, just so we don't get additional noise and cameras, and it helps with the bandwidth on the broadband signals as well, which should be easier. And a couple of things there. If you have got access, you should all have access to a menu bar somewhere. Mine, it's the top of my computer screen, and on that you do have reactions. Now, please feel free to use your reactions as it says a react. So, for example, I can send a reaction. Hopefully, you've all seen the reaction I've just sent. Yeah, hand up there from Jules. I'll come to you in just a second, Jules. So again, just to confirm that people can hear me okay and can see my camera. If you can find your reaction button and just give me a quick thumbs up or similar. Yeah, a couple of hands going up there. Don't know, yeah, thank you, Elaine. Yeah, oh, look at that. Yeah, we're all over it this evening, all over it, which is amazing. Jules, I see you've got your hand up. Evening, Sue, West Yorkshire. If you want to ask a question, if you want to pop it in the chat bar, and then I can keep an eye on that as the webinar progresses, and I can answer them either as we go or at the end, depending on what the questions are. So there's your reactions. Like I say, you should be able to find the chat bar as well. If you just click on the chat bar, you should find it will pop up, and then by all means ask questions, pose any comments, things like that in the chat bar. Is absolutely no problem at all. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to start with a very quick question. Now, if you're on your phone, you might not be able to see the poll. So it's 3 poll questions I've got. Just to give us a flavour of who we've got on the line. I can see we've got ADIs, I can see we've got rotated professionals, and we may well have some other people. Accidental hands up, Jules, that's absolutely no problem at all. Totally understand. So when I put the poll up, you'll see the question pop up on the screen. If you just want to answer the question, they're all multiple choice. It'll take you about 10 seconds, if that, to do it. Like I said, I'd just like to see who we've got on the line. So first question coming up, here it comes, is, are you a PDI, an ADI, a rotated professional, or other? So again, you should be able to see the results. So we've got, at the moment, 100% rotated professionals. Here we go. Yep, now we're starting to get some more. So again, you can just click on the option that's best suits you and just see who we've got, basically. So there we can see that few responses coming in here, so a good number of PDIs, ADIs, some rotated professionals, and a few others, which is excellent. So welcome to you all. Again, I think you can probably answer these throughout as well if you do find a way of being able to answer them. So we'll move on to the next one briefly. The next question is related to the honest truth. Do you currently deliver honest truth to your pupils? Yes or no for those that deliver it. So again, if we can have a look at that. So we've got 1/3 yes, 2/3 no. There we go, about half and half, which is excellent. Thank you very much for those answers. That's all good stuff. And then the last question. So if you answered no to the previous question, so only those that answered no, question is quite simply, would you like to join the honest truth? And options there of yes, no, or maybe. So again, if you'd like to. So we've got a few, got some yeses there. Got some good number of maybes. Ideal. Okay, so they will stay there. You should be able to answer those if you want throughout the evening, if you've having trouble getting access to them. I know historically, only heard of it yesterday, so no idea. Alison, that's fine. Keith, yes, I'm coming to Ashford next week. I'm coming to do a presentation in Ashford. So if you're in Ashford, you'll see me next week. For those that haven't sort of come across the honest truth, Amy, again, for those that aren't quite sure, by all means email us. So you can email info@thehonest.truth.co.uk. I'll put the email address into the chat bar. Jules, yeah, it might be if you're using a phone, sometimes it doesn't allow you to answer polls for some reason. Some versions of Teams, not all functionality is available on all versions of Teams. I don't quite know why. There is a new version of Teams that's come out recently, which it's caused me a few problems on my computer, so I've had to reload it a couple of times. So if again, Stephen, it may be the platform you're using might not be showing the poll up. I have had this issue before. The poll's clearly showing. We did try Zoom. I've tried Zoom. I may look at Zoom for the next one. The only reason I use Teams, it's a selfish thing on my part, is I'm far more familiar with the Teams platform and setting up webinars on Teams. But again, I may look at trying Zoom on the next one. I'll see how I get on. But I do like Teams as a platform. It's very easy to use, and that gives me all sorts of functionality to be able to do things like the polls and set these webinars up and stuff. So we shall see. So Ian, I see you've got your hand up there. If you want to ask a question, then by all means pop it in the chat bar, Ian. That's absolutely fine. And again, Marcel, got your hand up as well. You're not sure why the third poll isn't showing. It's up and running, Stephen, because people have been able to respond to it. So I'll leave the polls there. What I'd like to do is very quickly, for those that maybe have heard of the honest truth and are a bit unsure, and even those that haven't heard of the honest truth or have only heard of it very recently, that's all right, Ian, no problem, is a result of a recent survey we did. So hopefully you can now see my screen, all being well. And it's a very, very quick roundup of the survey that we did. So a recent survey of ADIs across the UK told us the following. 90% said they'd recommend it to other ADIs. Over 93% said it was useful addition to their lessons. 94% rated the app as good or really good. 94% rated it as easy or very easy to use. 88% rated the truth videos as very good or excellent. And 90% rated the honest truth as a very good or excellent road safety tool. So this is from ADIs who are currently actively using and delivering the honest truth to their pupils. And some of the comments about the honest truth, just as a quick one, I'll let you give you 30 seconds to read through those. But this is what ADIs are saying about the honest truth for those who maybe haven't come across us or who are a bit unsure about whether or not they would like to become involved. Just while you're reading through those, we have funded places available in a really good number of counties now. And I'm absolutely delighted that we've got some of our partners on the webinar this evening from Warwickshire and certainly Staffordshire that I've seen. Any others I've missed, apologies. But there are, so if you're an ADI in Staffordshire, Warwickshire, Norfolk, Kent, Worcestershire, Herefordshire, Shropshire, Avon, Somerset, Devon or Cornwall, and you want to get involved, then there are funded places available in all those counties, very, very kindly and generously funded by the local road safety partnerships, which is absolutely amazing. And we really genuinely thank those that are funding ADIs to be able to deliver the honest truth to the most vulnerable on our roads wholeheartedly. So thank you very much to those. So that is by far and away enough from me. I'm absolutely delighted that this evening we've been joined by Sophie Lyden from Fresh Drivers UK. And I'm going to hand the floor over to Sophie now to talk to us about the importance of vehicle maintenance and tyre safety for young drivers. Sophie, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. I'm recording on my phone as well at the same time because it creates good content. I'm going to share my screen.
Sophie, just while you're sharing a screen, huge apologies. I did mean to say that the meeting has been recorded. For those that couldn't make it this evening, it'll be available for a period after the webinar, and it'll appear on various our social media platform and available in other areas. So I do apologise for those. I did mean to say that at the beginning, but yeah, just so people are aware, it is being recorded. Sorry, Sophie, to continue.
It's fine. Sorry. Can you see my screen now, or not? I'm not very technical with stuff like this. Can you see that?
Yeah, you've got a whole load of thumbs up there, Sophie. Yeah, I think everyone can see it, which is great.
Perfect. Okay, so obviously the importance of vehicle maintenance is what we're going to be talking about this evening. So let's start with an introduction for, can you still see me as well as the screen? Or can you just see my screen? I can't see what anybody's saying.
Yeah, we can see you as well, Sophie.
Okay, that's fine. I just didn't want to be speaking like at the bottom of the laptop if I needed to speak to the camera. Okay, so let's start with an introduction. So my name is Sophie Lyden. I was formerly known as Sophie Bailey. I got married in June last year. I am a mum of 2 and I am a automotive industry professional. I guess that's what we would be calling ourselves. I have worked in the automotive industry now since about 2015. I ended up coming into the trade because it's our family business. So I've obviously been around it my whole life, but it was never something that I wanted to do. I wanted to be a zoologist. So I actually studied animal management at college and I did all my studies and everything. Unfortunately, my mum got bowel cancer whilst I was studying, and I kind of just gave up with all of my courses and didn't do anything, just obviously had other things on my mind. So then I started in bar work, and I worked my way up to being a restaurant and bar manager at a local hotel in Morecambe. And then I decided it wasn't for me anymore and wanted to go and work in a cocktail bar in Preston. So I went there, and then we had Storm Desmond, and I was getting there by train and I couldn't get to work. So then I had to go and work at the garage to pay for my car finance and beg my dad, please do pay my car finance for this month because I can't get to work and I can't afford it. And he said, yeah, if you work at the garage for a week, that's fine. And that was, yeah, it was about 10 years ago now and I've never left. So I fell back in love with the whole car industry. I've always been somebody who's been obsessed with cars, racing. I used to modify cars, don't do that anymore because I've grown up and learnt my lesson. And yeah, so that's basically me. I started campaigning for road safety about a year ago. We had a road traffic collision outside our garage where a lady wasn't paying attention. She overturned a vehicle. Me and my husband were first on scene, and he's now a firefighter. He decided, do you know what, I've always wanted to do it. And since we were kind of in the whole situation that we found ourselves in, he now is a on-call firefighter. And I started campaigning for road safety to raise awareness to distracted driving, speed, and obviously vehicle maintenance defects and tyre safety. So I have done lots of different things within the trade. I've tested tyres across Europe. I've been to Portimao, Ascari, Valencia. I've tested tyres on tracks across the UK as well. So I've had quite a vast experience within the trade, and considering I'm only 28, I think that's pretty decent. And I'm a female, so it's quite unheard of in this trade, but it's getting towards more female focus, which is nice. So anyway, enough about me. So which age group is the worst for lack of maintenance? It is in fact the 24 to 42-year-olds. So obviously, as road safety professionals, ADIs, we know that the most at risk kind of age categories with our driving on the roads, the ones who are a bit more vulnerable, is obviously 17 to kind of 29. And then you have obviously the older generation as well. But the millennials are the ones who are more than likely to neglect their vehicles. Now, the reason for that is purely because of something that I could talk about, which is garage anxiety. So like I've said on, I think it was, yeah, this was the first screen. So garage anxiety is basically where people have this anxious thought about going to a garage. So they'll leave the noise on the car, they'll kind of just ignore anything that goes wrong because they're either fearful of the cost, they don't know what to say when they go to a garage, or they've maybe had a previous bad experience elsewhere, so will be hesitant to go to a new garage because they've kind of lost the trust in that aspect. So I found a really good article whilst I was doing my presentation, and it was by Dick Lovett, which are basically a group of car dealerships, and they wrote a huge report on auto anxiety, garage anxiety as they call it. And I found these statistics, and I found it was quite interesting because they asked them certain questions, and it kind of gives us a bit of an insight into what I'm actually talking about. So it's not just me talking at you as a garage professional. You can kind of see that they've actually surveyed people and they've actually asked their opinions. So this question was, I avoid going to a garage if my car makes a bad noise, and the largest percentage that said this were the age 24 to 42-year-olds. I've Googled what is wrong with my car instead of going to a garage. Again, it's the same age group, 24 to 42-year-olds. And I think more or less now it's just the convenience of just Googling it rather than actually going and dealing with the issue. And I think that's purely because people get so anxious about what the actual issue is going to be. So you can see here the main percentage is, I fear I won't be able to afford the repairs. Now, obviously, in the cost of living crisis that we're in now, we are seeing a lot more vehicle maintenance that is really neglected to the point where people just think, I'll just wait for my MOT. But it's probably the worst thing that you can do, because just waiting for your MOT gives you a whole year of issues that can kind of come to the surface. And then that means that when you do go for an MOT, your bills are a lot larger than what you would have had if you'd had preventative maintenance in place for that year. So by talking about garage anxiety and by doing things like this, and you guys kind of learning about what I'm talking about, is ways that we can support people so that they don't have the big bills, that they actually look after the cars. And you can see that obviously I fear I won't be able to afford repairs, I get anxious, I feel uncomfortable, garages are intimidating, I've been overcharged, or I've had a bad experience in the past. So it all goes to show that there's lots of different aspects in it. And the silent generation, which is the elderly, so the 74 plus, are actually the most auto responsible, and I do see this on a day-to-day basis. Anybody who's kind of over the age range of about 74 are they're amazing little car people, because they will have the tyre pressures checked at least once a week, because they're just going out on that one trip for that week, but they want to make sure they're safe. They always get the batteries checked, they always get the services on time. And I think that generation probably was brought up with the correct attitude towards car maintenance and knew that they needed to look after them to keep them going longer. So I thought that was just a nice little fact for you. So why is maintenance so important? I mean, you guys probably all know why maintenance is so important, but these are issues on the screen that I'm showing to you now that have literally come around because of lack of maintenance. So here you can see where my blue dot is. That is where somebody had these the rear track rods replaced and basically not had the car aligned at the time of them being fitted. So this was about 2 to 3 weeks worth of driving, and because the car was so out of line, it's basically scrubbed off the whole inside of the tyre. And you can see here, I mean, the tyres aren't amazing, but they still had a decent amount of tread on them, but unfortunately it was worn down just due to the fact that they didn't have the job done correctly in the first place. You've got things like blebs in the tyres, so the amount of people who will hit a curb, will hit a pothole and not think twice about it, when actually at that moment of impact you've kind of compromised your tyre to the point where these blebs or bulges do actually occur. And that's what kind of puts you at risk. They're so prone for rapid deflations. Just all kind of horror stories could come from blebs and bulges in tyres, and I think they are one of the most kind of things that are maybe not talked about enough. And like a TPMS light could come on and you maybe ignore it because your pressure's slightly different than it should be, and it'll hold pressure for an extra day and you can't see anything in your tyre. But it's only till you actually go to the garage that you'll find that there is actually a bleb or a bulge there. This one, you can see a tyre has literally just been chopped the whole way around. That was from a broken coil spring. So this customer ignored us when we told them, you've got 2 broken coil springs, so we don't find it a good idea for you to put new tyres on that axle purely because you've got broken coil springs. We would advise you to basically replace your coil springs before you then replace your tyres. And he drove away because he didn't agree with our opinion, and the next day the coil spring actually popped outside the garage and popped his tyre at the same time, and that is the result of the damage. And then obviously your standard bald tyre on the edge because of lack of alignment. So maintenance on a whole is so important because it just causes all these different issues that end up costing the consumer money. And obviously we want to take their money at the same time because we're a garage, but we don't want them to keep they don't want to keep spending the money constantly purely because they don't know how to look after it. And the thing is, basic maintenance of a vehicle, it guarantees the longevity of it, and just basically maintaining and looking after it means that your car goes longer and you're more likely to want to care for it and, you know, get the most money out of it you can. So it is the most important thing. So the basics of car maintenance, again, I'm sure you guys all know this, but you've got your suspension, wipers, lights, tyres, engine checks, fluid levels, brakes, warning lights, and exhaust. And out of all of these, the most neglected things are, now number one is actually engine oil and change and service, which I think you could probably all believe. I mean, especially since COVID, a lot of people have thought, well, I didn't drive very far in COVID, so I don't need to change my oil because I've not done 10,000 miles, I've not done 15,000 miles. So they've left it till, say, 2022, and then they thought, I've still not done that far, so I still won't get my engine serviced. So then it gets to the point where the oil's really kind of crying out for help, or they've just topped it up and not had it all checked over. But to me, tyres and brakes are the most neglected thing. And I think that's just personal experience from working in the garage. We see on a day-to-day basis some really sorry states of tyres, and it really is scary. I can't get across to people the issue that we have with tyres on our roads at the moment. I'm one garage in Morecambe, and we must change at least 17 to 18 illegal tyres a day. So you can imagine what it is on the grand scale when you put all the garages in the whole of the UK together. That's just one of us in Morecambe that's having to deal with these illegal and neglected tyres, and it's purely down to cost. But the scariest thing we find is when the tyres are bald, or, you know, have got cords exposed, they've gone through to the second stage of laminate, and then we find that the brakes are metal on metal, and then they've not had their engine serviced. And even something simple as having your air filter changed, it's something that's ignored so often. Yet if you don't change it, it increases your fuel consumption because there's not enough air intake through your vehicle. So they're all such simple things that can be changed, but unfortunately are so neglected. And I think because then when I say a young driver, or a new driver, or, you know, just a person that's maybe been driving for a year or two does go to a garage and kind of says, I've got this noise, it's been going on for 6 months now, so what could it be? And we find they've got 4 bald tyres, they need the brakes doing, they need a service, they need an air filter change, and they need other things. And then they're thinking, God, they're just trying to have me off now because I've come here for help. And I think this is why we have such an issue, because people literally leave everything to last minute, so it ends up costing a fortune. So hopefully you guys can take something away from this today to help support your local garages and people like me who campaign for stuff like this, so that we can encourage people to visit garages more. So the other factors which are so important, which do get neglected, is battery maintenance. The amount of people who ring me and say, I've got a flat battery, please can you help? Running on empty or using low quality fuel. It's not using low quality fuel. Using low quality fuel isn't the best thing that you can do for your car. A tank here and there is okay, but using the best kind of fuel you can afford at that moment is the best thing to do for your car. It's kind of, say, like eating decent food and eating a takeaway. You know how good you feel when you eat something good. When you eat a takeaway, you enjoy it at that moment, but then you're left feeling kind of crappy afterwards. And it's the same with fuel for your car. Cleanliness of the inside and outside of a vehicle, they're also very neglected. Some of the cars that we see inside are horrendous, and they're usually kind of the worst cars on the outside too. And bulbs, lights and wipers, they are always forgotten about. Wipers are literally the easiest fix probably on a car, yet there's always a car that comes in and it's scraping the hell out of the windscreen, or it's squeaking, it's got frays all over it. And if you don't have wipers that clean your windscreen efficiently, then there's no point in using them, because you're not going to be able to see where you're going. And it's the same with bulbs. They get ignored so much. It's only when they go to an MOT and they get picked up and it's failed because they've got a headlight out, they've got a registration bulb out, brake light out, the same thing. So, why is it not working? No, that wasn't the end of it. Yeah, So how do we help? So basically, I've kind of skimmed over it slightly. I thought I'd put a bit more into it, but it's probably easier for you guys to ask the questions that you want to know about this kind of topic, and then I can answer them. But the best thing to do to help young people and encourage them to look after their vehicles and look after themselves and their vehicles is by educating yourselves on these issues. So, you know, making a relationship with a garage in your area and asking if they'll support you on social media, you can support them on social media, and basically working together to create little quick tip videos, content for literally just, you know, say like LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, just quick tips and hints on how they can do a quick and easy check on the vehicle, how to change the tire, how to check the tires with the 20p, and just basically doing simple things like that can really help convey the message, and it makes people think, do you know what, I can actually do that, so I don't know why I'm panicking. And then always making a connection with, you know, the garages in your area. It doesn't just have to be one, it can be a few. I mean, if you look on the Tyre Safe supporter locator, there'll be garages in your areas which will be Tyre Safe supporters, and you can use those. And, you know, you can say if you use a Tyre Safe supporter locator, you can find one in your area, so you can go for a free tyre check. Usually they can be independents, and when you use an independent, they're usually a family business like us who we take pride in supporting the community, supporting road safety organisations and so on. So doing things like that and making these connections and posting it on social media is one of probably the best things you can do. We all know that young people spend so much time on their phones now, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, anything that makes their lives easier. I mean, I've spent so much time on TikTok recently, and I never usually go on it, but I'll see something for my kitchen and I'm like, I need to do that. Yep, that's so quick and easy. So if we can encourage people to do that with their cars, and if they see that a driving instructor does that, or a road safety organisation is promoting that, or an emergency services is promoting that, and they're doing it in partnership with this garage, they'll probably think, oh yeah, that's cool, oh, I'll go there because that looks really cool, or I can ask them that question and I don't feel like I'm as anxious to then learn about my car. And obviously you might all think, well, I kind of already knew about this anyway, so I kind of knew about the messages, but I think joining forces just supports the message even further. And I feel like I wrote loads of notes down of what to say, and I've just not done it, and I've gone on a tangent like I always do. But it might be easier now just to kind of answer some questions. If anyone's got kind of anything they want to ask, anything they want help with, just basics, then I could go over that. Ollie, if that's okay. I don't know if that presentation kind of made any sense. I hope it did.
No, Sophie, thank you so much for that. It certainly highlighted the scale of the problem, particularly amongst that demographic around that reluctance to go to a garage and seek advice, and that whole piece around ignoring, the funny noises and the hope it'll go away, or it won't be too serious. Again, I think the cost of living probably has a part to play in that as well. That, the increased cost of living, everything costs more. Well, actually, if I can eke some more miles out of my car, and try and avoid looking at, trying to avoid having to go to a garage because I'm worried about the expense, I'm worried about the cost of going to the garage, that potentially puts a lot of people off. So I think I absolutely applaud what you're doing to raise the profile of this, Sophie, and the videos and things she does, absolutely brilliant, really good stuff, really good for young drivers. And actually, I think it's our young drivers who are possibly most at risk. So, for example, I know Sophie and I had this conversation quite recently, is young drivers are very aware that they get 6 points in their license, they're going to lose their license, that's the license gone. Now, that's quite easy to do, and the things they obviously think about are things like excess speed, 2 speeding tickets, license gone, 1 mobile phone offence, license gone. But actually, 2 ball tyres, that's your license gone. 2 ball tyres, 3 points each, license out the window. And again, I'm Sophie and I have discussed some of these tyre sort of compliance surveys that have been done, and the results are truly shocking. I see that Sue's put a note in the chat bar, a fleet trainer, at least 2 assessments a month have to be cancelled due to defective tyres. You know, it is absolutely shocking, because at the end of the day, your tyre is what keeps your car on the road, as we all know.
Yeah.
And it's only actually a very small part of the rubber that keeps us on the road. So that small part of rubber that's keeping our vehicle on the road has got to be in the best condition possible, really. So, you know, it for me, it's a really, really critical part of the learning to drive process, is making sure that vehicle is safe and roadworthy.
Yeah, I think the worst thing is when people really forget about the tyres and they really forget about the brakes. And I mean, I went to Warwickshire Fire and Rescue Service, and I met with their road safety partnership, and I did a presentation on tyres. And I think a lot of the people that were in the meeting, they were kind of surprised about how much actually goes into making tyres and the whole, you know, kind of output of the industry. And I think people just think it's just black rubber on your car that lasts forever, but it's really not. It's just 4 postcards, the size of a postcard, and it's 4 of those on the road. They carry the whole weight of your car, and it's the pressure in your tyres that actually holds the weight of your car. And if that's not right and you've got no tread, well, when it comes down to the fatal 4 or the fatal 5, which we're all so familiar with, they're only magnified by the fact that you don't have the correct pressure, or you don't have the correct tyre tread, or you don't have brakes, or you don't have correct suspension. You know, these things that are taken as to factors into fatality, serious injuries and stuff, it literally magnifies them by so much because of neglected vehicles and lack of maintenance. So, you know, working together as a collective, anybody in this call who wants, you know, to learn more about it or thinks about making videos about just basic maintenance checks, it all helps, it all supports people. And even if 5 people watched your video, you've supported those 5 people. I mean, sometimes I spend ages thinking of a video to do and I'll get 100 views, but then I always think, well, there's 100 people there who have watched this video and they thought, actually, yeah, I do need to go and top my screen wash up. Actually, I do need to go and check my oil before I drive on that journey. So I think just literally talking about it does really raise the profile of it.
Lovely, thank you, Sophie. You've got a nice bit of chat going on here. And interestingly, Roger there asked, with regards to the bald tyres you showed in one of your early slides, Sophie, why didn't the garage do tracking as part of the job?
It was done at a backstreet garage. And they didn't have the correct equipment to carry out the full job, and unfortunately that's what happened to the customer. He was not very pleased when we explained to him the whole situation. I don't think he'd been told the correct information when he had the work done at the time. He just kind of thought he was getting it done a bit cheaper than it was with a legitimate garage, if you know what I mean. So that's why it wasn't done at the time, because we would never do anything suspension wise without at least realigning the car and doing the tracking on it. So
the thing with the bald tyres that you showed in those slides, Sophie, tyres don't go bald overnight. You know, no. that is a long time of complete neglect of a tyre for enable a tyre to go that bald. Now, you know, you say about the 20 pence test for checking your tyre, but actually, again, Sophie, you're the expert here, correct me if I'm wrong, all tyres have got wear bars in them. So all tyres have got wear bars, which actually, if you don't have a 20 pence piece to hand, all you need to do, for those that aren't aware, and it's surprising the number of people that aren't aware about what a wear bar is, and maybe you've never heard of a wear bar in a tyre groove, all the grooves in a tyre are going to have what's called a wear bar, and you run your finger around the groove and you'll find a little notch of rubber. Now that notch of rubber is set at 1.6 mil, the legal minimum tread depth for a tyre. And if you find the wear bar, if it's smooth across the tyre and the wear bar, that's at or below the legal minimum tread depth for a tyre. And it's really easy to see. If you've got 20 pence piece, literally, you don't even have to look. All you do is you run your finger around. You can do it by feel, and there are your wear bars. And that's for me, and that's how I always check my tyres. I always look at the wear bars and say, right, how close to the wear bars am I? You can see if you've got 2, 3, 4 mil. You can just about judge it at sort of whereabouts your tyres are in respect of wear and tear. And also, you can also see if there's uneven wear on a tyre as well. So uneven wear on a tyre, that's obviously going to show a potential problem with tracking or alignment or things like that. So then obviously there's another underlying problem there if your tyres aren't wearing evenly. Sophie, you're the expert. I'm only going off my experience from 30 years of policing and half of that in roads policing and the number of bald tyres I've seen over the years, and some absolute examples as shocking and worse than the ones that that you highlighted. Just moving down the chat bar here. So Sophie, from Ian, is there a crib sheet stroke advice to pass on to learners to help, especially around nervousness of going to a garage? Is there anything that ADIs could access to be able to pass on to their learners in respect particularly of this topic?
Yeah, at the moment I don't have anything, but it is a great idea. I am in the process of currently making a video about garage anxiety, which basically is to just give people information on what to do when they go to a garage or what to research before they go to a garage. So actually, yeah, I just thought there was another screen on my presentation. It was for my social medias. So if you wanted to pass your students over to my social media, which is at Fresh Drivers UK, and that's across all platforms. So that's TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. And if you guys especially are on anything like LinkedIn, I do post a lot of stuff on there. Then obviously you find me on there. So if you ever wanted to ask any questions or ask for anything like that, I can kind of mock you up anything you want. That's fine. But yeah, at the moment I don't really have anything, but it's something that I'm looking at doing because obviously a lot of people are asking, well, please can you help us? And I just don't have anything to give them at the moment. So but yeah, if you do go on my social medias, I've got a lot of videos in the pipeline, and I did just do a video. Well, I was a presenter on a video with Copilot as well, which I think will be quite interesting for you guys when it comes out too.
It's at Fresh Drivers UK, your tag, isn't it, Sophie?
Yeah, at Fresh Drivers UK.
So I've just put that in the. There you go. So I've just put. Oh, I thought I just put it in the. Sorry, I thought I just put it in the chat bar. I managed to just put Sophie in the chat bar. But yeah, so at Fresh Drivers UK for. I think Jules was asking to repeat the social media tag. So a couple of other things here that while we're going down the chat bar. The other question there's Keith has asked to be able to get a small and compact video we can show our students and local garages to promote. Probably the same answer as the last one there, Sophie. For you've got masses of social media content. There's stuff on there, I'm sure, that can be used picked up by ADIs if they want to use it to sort of promote to their pupils and potentially engage with local garages.
Yeah, I mean, the best thing to do would be maybe if you wanted to drop me a message, I can find which garage in your area is kind of on the same wavelength as me and maybe help you in that direction, or I can make you I can make a generic video. I'm always creating content. That's what I do whilst I'm at work. So if you wanted something like that, then that's absolutely fine. I already have some on there, especially about like tyre safety checks, general vehicle checks. I am actually the young campaigning ambassador for I Am Road Smart, so we collab quite a bit on videos, and they send me over content that they want making for certain months, and I basically make that. So that's quite a generic video, which you guys are more than welcome to share. I think the next one that we're doing together is a February Valentine's one, which is how to fall back in love with your car. So that will be quite a good one for you all to use with your students. So yeah, keep an eye on their I Am Road Smart pages as well, because you'll probably see me pop up on there.
Sophie, just I hope you don't mind me mentioning this, and it's not too premature. We've had conversations in the very recent past. The honest truth is actually looking to do more work with Sophie as well, to actually provide a platform for Sophie to be able to promote the work she's doing within the Honest Truth platform as well, so on the website and things like that. But that's a work in progress, so we're hoping to be able to give Sophie another outlet for her work, which is absolutely fab, and this is something we're working on at the moment. I do have another announcement I'm going to make in a minute. I haven't discussed this with Sophie. I know she'll be absolutely fine with it. It's what I want to talk to her about at the end, but I am going to mention it before we finish this evening, particularly around tyre safety. So let's just go back to the chat bar a moment then. So Glenn, teaching people the acronym FLOWERY is a good way to get people to remember the basic vehicle checks. I couldn't agree more. I think it's a really good thing to do. The flowers, powders, whatever acronym works for people. But again, I'm thinking that actually maybe there's some something there we can do with THT as well around those vehicle checks and powders and flouring, things like that, just to get people to think about it. At least getting into the mindset of starting to think about actually doing slightly more regular vehicle checks and maybe once a year. So yeah, Glenn, I think that's a really good idea, and we'll follow that one up. Stephen, given the time of year, should we mention all-season tyres? Now, all-season tyres is a really interesting one for me because they tend to be expensive. All-season tyres are expensive, and actually a lot. And again, I'm going to hand over to Sophie, but for my sort of experiences, a lot of decent tyres, decent quality tyres, are really good at water dispersal, and they all have very good water dispersal characteristics. And that actually, for the cost, all season tyres, if you can afford them, great, but actually for the cost, it does, as I understand, Sophie, it does affect fuel economy and performance, having all season tyres. And for the number of times they're needed in a lot of areas of the country, probably not a great investment for a young person, rather than put money into sort of general tyres, but the best they can afford with the best water dispersal characteristics and properties and things like that. But Sophie, you might have something to add into that.
Yeah, I think obviously we're in January, but all season tyres, I would kind of agree with what you said. With young drivers, you could try and sell them all season tyres, but it's mainly kind of, see, for me, I think an all season tyre is a great tyre, but I think that's probably because I know I'm only 28, but I'm still a bit older now. So I think for me, I'm thinking of the fact that if I go with the kids somewhere and it's snowing or, it's icy, I know that they'll be able to cope in those environments. And at the same time, it'll last me a whole year because I don't have to take them off. And I do steer a lot of people away from buying winter tyres now, purely because an all-season tyre kind of does the same thing. And if people buy a winter tyre, they're really bad at actually swapping back to the summer tyres. And obviously, the whole point of them being an all season is because the hybrid, you have a summer tyre, which is your standard tyre, which works from 7 degrees above up to 40 degrees, because that's how tyres are made. There's certain countries with higher kind of temperatures, and that's how they work up to. A winter tyre works from 7 degrees and below. So your all season tyre is basically made up of compounds which can be flexible to it being freezing or to it being hot. And the thing is, with all seasons, like you said, fuel consumption does go up a lot more. They do disperse water amazing, but they are a lot better for the ice and the snow conditions. And unless the kind of young driver is going to, say, Scotland or places where it does get a bit snowy, it does get a bit icy, then I wouldn't maybe steer them that way. I would more steer them to spending a bit more money on just a standard tyre and going for something a bit more mid-range, premium if they wanted to, but steering away from the budgets, because although you can't buy a bad tyre anymore, a budget tyre kind of doesn't always have the best handling compared to, say, a mid-range and a premium.
Sophie, that's great. There's been a couple of mentions here about dry steering. So Neil, if you dry steer a lot, does wear the tyres? Does it wear out the tyres that much? Now Tracy has responded to that. Said Neil causes it says bald patches. I think that's meant to be bald patches, much like my bald patch up top here, and uneven wear. So yeah, again, dry steering. Again, I try and avoid dry steering at all costs. It's sort of akin to running a cheese grater across a tyre with particularly these high adhesion road surfaces we have now. So these anti-skid surfaces and things like that. It is going to really do some damage to a tyre if somebody does it time and time again. I don't know, Sophie, would you agree with that?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I don't know. We see the thing. You kind of realise if you know how to look after your tyres, then you kind of do the right thing. And I think younger drivers probably wouldn't think about dry steering or anything like that. They probably just think about the fact that they're just driving in general. So I think maybe encouraging them just basic tyre maintenance is the best thing. So.
Yeah, okay, that's absolutely ideal. But like I say, I was certainly always taught not to dry steer because again, it does cause that damage or potential damage to the tyre. Faye from Warwickshire Road Safety, welcome, Faye. Great question here by Faye. Actually, great presentation as usual, Sophie. Yeah, absolutely, as we knew. Could you mention the easy way to check the age of a tyre, as young drivers usually have older cars, so sometimes old tyres with OK tread? Now, this is a really, really interesting one. I've certainly dealt with some collisions over the years when I was in the traffic department, where serious collisions, we're going to be looking at the tyres. And actually, we found, you know, I've dealt with vehicles that have been, you know, maybe 10, 12, 15 years old, that have got tyres on them that are 8 to 10 years old, these tyres. Now, I know that tyres have a shelf life, and that there is a way of checking when the tyre was manufactured. So, Sophie, if you just want to cover off, you know, the sort of the recommended shelf life for a tyre, and actually the way to check the age of a tyre, and obviously what can happen to a tyre if it is an old tyre. I certainly know what happened, but I'll pass to you to answer that one.
What I'm going to do is I'm just going to share my screen again quickly, and I'll just go on to, oh, I don't have to get off now. Escape. Oh, why won't it do it? Oh, do you know what? I don't know why it's gone from the bottom of there. I had. Why is it not working now? Oh wait, it's because of this. 1 second. So the presentation that I did for Warwickshire Fire and Rescue, we kind of covered all of the basics. So the dot code, I think people were very surprised about this, because again, not everybody knows about it. But if you just give me 1 second, because it's a lot easier for me to kind of show you with the actual. There it is. Let me just. Right, you should. God, this is all so technical. Right. So I'll just. Sorry, my laptop's being really slow now. Right, so yeah, this was basically the presentation that I did for Warwickshire Fire and Rescue Service. So obviously, I don't know, you guys will probably know, but obviously that's how you find your tyre size. So on the side of your tyre, you've got this says here 205, 55, 16 on a 91V. So your 91 is your load index. Your speed is the V, so the tyre speed rating represents the top speed, and the tyre is capable of maintaining. And I did have oh, maybe not. I thought I had the dot code in it, this one. Maybe not. So basically, on the side of the tyre where it says the 205, 55, 16, there's a little box. Oh, where have you gone? There you are. There's a little box, and it's basically like oval shaped, and inside it will say something like 1422, and that means it was made in the 14th week of 2022. So if you go out to your car tomorrow and you check your dot code and it's say 0710, it was made in 2010, then I would say get that tyre off your vehicle because it's 14 years old. And basically what happens after 5 to 6 years, the compound in the tyre starts to harden, it starts to break down, and that's when you start to notice the cracks and the perishing on the sidewall. It's not always something to majorly worry about. Now it's being picked up on MOTs, so they will say it's perishing on the tyre, so they would advise a replacement. But if it's kind of a poorly maintained tyre, you have the chance of risking rapid deflation. You're probably going to lose pressure, and to be honest, just for the fact that you're kind of risking it, it's better to change them. And it's literally purely just down to the compound breakdown, and really after 5 years you more than likely should have used your tyre. Every tyre has a different kind of mileage expectation, so a budget tyre, you're expected to get like 10 to 12,000 miles out of it. If you get more than that, then amazing. A mid-range tyre, you're expected to get say 12,000 to 20,000 out of. If you get any more, amazing. And then your premium, you should be getting at least 20 to say 30,000 miles out of a premium tyre. If you get any less, then the ones that you bought from, if you bought from your local garage or whatever, they should be able to send them back to be reviewed basically by the tyre brand themselves and assess as to the point why they've not lasted very well. We had a stint of Continentals which were lasting horrendously. They were getting about 12,000 miles out of them from brand new, and they would last a year and that was it, and that's just not on from a premium brand. So yeah, if you have anything older than 4 or 5 years on your vehicle, I would advise you to get them changed. They've just brought in now that commercial vehicles, I think it's taxis and commercial coaches, so anything that's bigger than a 10-seater carrying passengers, if the tyres are 10 years old, then it's an immediate MOT fail and they can actually be prosecuted for it. And it's something that I'm going to work to start campaigning for tyres on passenger vehicles as well, because it's just as much of a risk. So, yeah.
Sophie, that's lovely. You're a little bit broken towards the end of that. I'm not sure whether that's my connection or yours, but anyway,
sorry.
hopefully people can still hear us. That's all right, no problem. So Stephen then obviously put a comment in there about the all-weather tyres. Thank you, Stephen. So for icy conditions, got me on your son's car, keep them safe. I've got them in your car, a little bit noisy, you don't see much problem with the fuel consumption, which is great, you know, and that's great to hear. I was just, you know, aware that it can increase fuel consumption having all-weather tyres, and exactly as Sophie said, great if you live in an area where you are prone to worse weather. So if, you know, up in Scotland and parts of Northern England, down here in Devon, albeit I live on the edge of Dartmoor, down here in Devon, not a huge amount of need for all-weather tyres. I just choose, for my car, I choose a good quality premium tyre to know that tyre will have good water dispersal properties and will be fairly long-lived. Talking about the age of tyres as well, is that, you know, it's as tyres degrade, that rubber will become very cracked, and you know you can start having rubber splitting and things, and even though the tread might look really good, people don't tend to think about the integrity of a tyre wall. So the minute that you start to get cracking appearing and splits and things like that, whilst the tyre tread might be in good condition, the actual tyre wall is to the point of could fail at any moment. And again, I've seen plenty of tyre wall failures over the years. Same with bulges, plying cord exposed, cracks, chunks, all that sort of thing. You know, you might have a brand new tyre with a chunk missing out of it. You know, well, it's got loads of tread on it. You know, but the tyre wall's now compromised, and that then tyre could then fail at any second as a compromised tyre. And I see Sophie not busy nodding away there. So these, you know, this is a really important topic that we're covering. So just Roger, I'm going to come back to you in a second. We do some videos on maintenance for THT. I'm going to come back to that in 1 second because that's part of my announcement I've got to make. Adrian, thank you so much for the image you put in there about where the dot code is and where to find it on a tyre and how to interpret it. I've also put a link in there from the Pirelli website. Other tyres are clearly available. It's just the first one I pulled up on the Google search. So there it is. If you want to have a look at it, tyre dot code, what it is and how to read it. Again, really, really useful there. And there's been a bit of discussion around the particular one in there. So yes, so week 48 of 2017, actually it's week 48 of 2018, we think. Can we see the slide with the age data? Didn't quite get it all. Yeah, so Sue there, if there's time, can we see the slide with age data? Sophie, you didn't have one you could find, did you?
No, but what Adrian's put, 47 means made in the week. No, that means it was made in week 47 of 2018. 4718, that's what that means basically. I don't know if that's, has he put a link in for the what the dot code is?
It's the image. I think it's the image that, that Adrian put in. So Adrian put the image in, and it's in the dot code is 4718, which initially said it was week 48 of 2017, but as you pointed out, it's week 47 in 2018. So yeah, you can work out the week a tyre, so you can work out almost the exact age of a tyre just by looking at the dot code. Adrian, your fat fingers are excused. No problem at all.
Yeah, so it is basically whatever the side of your tyre says, you'll find DOT. So when you go out to look at your car in the morning, I'm sure you'll all do this, because when I went to Warwickshire, that we were all outside looking at the tyres. And I actually found a car that was there with one of the people that was out there, and they had a 10-year-old tyre, so he was like this, tapping his hand afterwards. But it says DOT, so it's Delta Oscar Tango, and then you'll see like a little semicircle and like oval shape, and in that it will say 22-23, and that means it was made in the 22nd week of 2023, or it could say 01 of 17. That means it was made in the first week of 2017. So when you buy a car, like a brand new car, usually the tires are 6 months old because of how it was made when it goes to factory. So usually if you've got like a 23 plate car, you've probably got 22-year tires on, and it's just how it works. So it's always good, especially if you're anybody who likes to save money and buy tires online to have them fitted at a local garage. There's places online which you can buy tires from, but a lot of the tires are always kind of short dated, which is why they're cheap. So they might already be 4 years old as they send them out to you. So at that moment in time, it might seem like they were cheaper, but really it's because they were short dated, as we say. So they're bound to crack a bit sooner than they would. So it's always good to know about the dot codes, because it's always good to keep an eye on them.
I'm sure everybody will be rushing out after this to go and check the dot codes on their tyres, Sophie. I'm going to go to check mine in a minute, yes. But that's a really, really good point that you make around cheap tyres online, that actually they're often, like you say, short date tyres, and that you're not going to know until you get them. So that's a really, really good point, and not something I'd have considered. So, you know, it's great. It's massive information this evening, Sophie. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's the same with Part 1 tyres as well. There's no legality on how old the tyre has to be that they sell. So they could sell you a tyre that's 15 years old, but there's no legality around it. But yeah, if you want to know any more tyre information, you know where I am.
So just looking at the time, I'm very keen to keep this to an hour, and I do have an announcement I would like to make. So I think we've covered everything that's on the chat bar. Gordon, is there a tyre course available? Sophie?
I do them. If you wanted a tyre course, I can come to you. The only thing I ask is if you'd pay my fuel. I don't ask you to pay for my time, because I do it all for free. So yes, if you wanted me to come and give you a talk on tyres anytime, you can drop me an email. I can pop my email in the chat for you, and we can have a chat.
Amazing, Sophie, you're an absolute star. So thank you all so much for your time. Sophie, that was absolutely amazing, and I think everybody would agree that's been a really useful hour of our time, and I've certainly learned loads from that, and I hope that those on the line have, and will be able to pass those at our ADIs, will be able to pass that on to their pupils as they go forward. Sharon, where are we, Sharon? Sharon asking, what's the oldest age you'd recommend on a tyre, i.e. no more than 6 months?
No more than, what do you mean?
So what's the oldest age you'd recommend on a tyre? So Sharon was asking, you know, how old a tyre would you be happy to use? Yeah,
so if I was buying it from a garage, I'd want it to only be, say, 6 months old, really, to a year maximum. If it was on my car already, I wouldn't want it to be any older than 6 years, and that's purely just because of the breakdown in the compounds and stuff. And most garages will be pretty uniform with that too, is what I said. I sent my email wrong the first time, by the way. I've just sent it right the second time. Sorry, everyone. So the second one, right, it's the correct one. Sophie at
freshdriversuk.co.uk. Yeah. Excellent. One last question there, because I'm just noting the time. I've still got my very important announcement to make, hot off the press. Where does Sophie cover? Sophie, where do you cover?
Well, I'm in Morecambe, so
Penzance is quite a long way.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm in Goodwood. I'm going to Goodwood in July, so I'm right down the bottom of the country. So, you know, I kind of do whatever I want, and I can kind of go wherever. So, like I say, if you can pay my fuel and put me up for the night if I'm too far away, then that's absolutely fine with me.
So get in touch with Sophie, negotiate. I think it's probably the easiest way to look at that. Yeah. So we are out of time, people. Just before we go, I'm going to go back to Roger's question. Will you do some video on maintenance for THT? I've had a discussion with James Evans, who many of you will know. This week, we are going to introduce an 11th truth in the next couple of months. We just need to work it up, which is where Sophie comes in. We are going to be introducing the 11th truth is going to be tyre safety. So it is going to become a truth all on its own, is tyre safety, and then we're going to look at vehicle maintenance, and we'll probably have an element on the website in relation to vehicle maintenance. But I think that tyre safety is such an important topic that James and I have had a good discussion about this literally in the last 48 hours, and we've made the decision that the 11th truth is coming, and it's going to be tyre safety. And Sophie is going to help us with that. Sorry, Sophie, to put you on the spot, but I'm sure you'll be delighted to help us with that one. So, girl power, Sophie, fantastic, excellent. Keith, look forward to seeing you in Ashford next week. Thank you. Oh, Salisbury. So Amy's asking you in Salisbury, basically. I think where you cover. Amy's saying she's in Salisbury. So Wiltshire, I bet. Wiltshire, yes. Wiltshire, Salisbury, Wiltshire. Oh, God, I'm going to embarrass myself now. Anyway, we're over time. Thank you all so much for joining us this evening, and we really hope that you found it you've all found it as informative as I have. Huge thanks to Sophie for giving up her time an hour this evening to talk to us about maintenance and particularly tyre safety. Generated some really good debate there, and hopefully you've all got something that you can take away and pass on to pupils. Anybody who wants to get involved in Honest Truth, I have you look in the chat bar. There is a link there that you can go and join up to Honest Truth. Absolutely no problem at all. If you've got any queries or questions, then by all means email us. Roger, yes, it will. It'll automatically appear on the app when we've got it. So the new truth will appear on the app as a tyre truth once we've got it, and we're hoping to get that done in the next month or so. But we have got some work to be able to do that. But it is definitely on the cards for our 11th truth, and there may be a couple of others to follow later on this year that we're talking about, early discussions, but we'll see about it. So info@thehonesttruth.co.uk. If you want to email us, just let me pop that in the chat bar very briefly. The Honest Truth. If you email us with any queries you've got, there we go. There's our email address. The website, Honest Truth website, you can join up. Again, I'm delighted for those that are maybe thinking about it. Please come and join the ever-growing band of ADIs that are becoming a part of the Honest Truth community. We'd be absolutely delighted to see you. If any current ADIs, so currently delivering a Honest Truth, and you want a CPD certificate for attending this webinar, please drop me an email with the name you want on your certificate to info@thehonesttruth.co.uk, and I will sort out a certificate and email it back to you. Alan, where will the recording be available? So what we'll do is it will be available on the Honest Truth Facebook page. If you're not already following it, follow that. And we'll also try and make it available on our website as well. So you can go into the website and you can access it from there. Might be a few days to get that sorted out, but there will be a recording of this webinar available, and we'll put out when it is available for those that have missed it. Okay, so that's Alan. That's it. That's all I have. And Sophie, anything else from yourself?
No, that's it. Just thank you all very much. And like I say, if you need any more information, just drop me a message on one of my socials and I'll get back to you as soon as I can.
Awesome. If you could just hold on the line for a second, Sophie, when we finish, just literally like 1 minute of your time. I know you've got little ones busy getting quiet. So good evening to everybody. Please join us for our next webinar. It'll be the end of March. Dates will come out. It'll come out on emails. It'll come out on our website, Facebook. It'll come out via, the various channels. So please do join us for our next one in March. I haven't got the date yet, but it'll be back end of March at some point. And in the meantime, stay safe, and anything we do to help, you know where to find us. Thank you so much.